said it's live?
Yeah, it's live on DLive, and it's on the account video on YouTube, so
Should we just go with DLive?
well, we're gonna go with both still.
Okay, you've got it.
It's just I'm trying to figure one thing out here real fast.
Okay. Thanks for holding. We'll be ready to go in a minute here.
We're just gonna do this.
Ready to go? Is this good? Ah. Ready to go? Okay. I guess we're starting now. Sorry about the delay. We had some technical difficulties with the live stream. So welcome to the second EOS Detroit Meetup through Detroit Blockchainers. Thanks a lot to Grand Circus for giving us the space. And thanks for everyone on the live stream as well as in person for attending. So today we've got a guest speaker all the way from Grand Rapids, Chadrick Mahaffey. He's going to be talking to us about how to build an MMO game using the EOS blockchain. So without further ado, welcome up Chadrick.
It's good to be here. I'm excited. I am used to pacing back and forth, so that's not going to work with these cameras. So do I need to stay right in this area? Is that about right? Okay, all right.
So let's see.
All right, so I'm Chadrick Mahaffey. I have been in blockchain stuff since the end of 2013, and I talked to my wife about it, and I said, hey, we need to do this, and she's like, well, how much is it going to cost? And so we just started putting a little bit in every week, basically, for a while. And a little bit about me. I am a Christian. I'm a husband, 23 years this year, and father of 2 daughters. One of them is going to college this fall, and the other is just graduating next month. So I gave myself this title, Freedom-Minded Hopeful Futurist, and this is kind of my why. You know, they always say that a person's why is more important than the how, because if your why is important enough, the hows don't really matter, right? And this is kind of it, towards helping the individual labor and freedom. And I'm going to talk about where that comes from a little while later. Now, what Rob said is we're going to be talking about how to build an MMO on EOS, on the blockchain. But before I get into that, I want to build up some background here. What I'm going to be talking about a bit is crowdfunding, not crowdfunding, a game DApp, distributed application, and a self-funding DAC. And a DAC is a distributed autonomous community, corporation, company. This piece of artwork was done by one of our artists, and he's just an amazing individual. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Blockchain technology, from its inception, has always been about innovating, rethinking the way of old models, just rethinking them. How can we do it better? How can we do it different? And you know, this picture is all over the internet about the fish jumping out of the bowl and into the other bowl. And this is kind of what you have to do when you take the deep dive into crypto. And you have to leave, you know, a lot of old thinking and really take that leap. Ever since I was a kid, I was always asking the questions, you know, what if? What if we could do this, or what if we could do that? And the blockchain has really allowed me to think of those things more. So this picture here comes from the EOS New York Meetup that they did not too long back. And what they did is they asked everybody for one word describing what the blockchain means to you. And I thought that was pretty awesome. I mean, not everybody took it seriously. You know, you got Clint Eastwood in the middle there. You know, truly, you know, future. You know, that's the first thing people think of, future. And then freedom. That's what got me excited about blockchain technology. Let me take a drink here. I actually started into crypto through MadeSafe. And MadeSafe, there, if you know anything about it, they said, hey, we are all about privacy, security, and freedom. And I was like, hey, I can get behind that. I'm a very libertarian-minded thinker, trying to find ways to secure life, liberty, property, and this is really cool. So actually, let me step back and ask a couple questions here. How many people are super familiar with blockchain technology in here? Okay, we have quite a few. How many people are just getting started? Okay, all right. How many people know about EOS? A lot about EOS. Okay, all right, good. So this is going to be, I'm trying to think of how I can curve this to be relevant to everyone, and but we're just going to move ahead and see what happens here. So freedom. This is a big thing for me. Frederick Bastiat, if you've ever heard of him, he was a gentleman that was alive during the French Revolution. There was many French revolutions, but he was alive during big French Revolution. And he said in his book, The Law, he said, life, liberty, and property do not exist because men have made laws. On the contrary, it was the fact that life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that caused men to make laws in the first place. And I thought, that's pretty awesome. If you get a chance, it's free on the internet, the law, and he wrote it a year before he died. He died of lung disease, tuberculosis, and he died after the socialists took over. But he was preaching against it, preaching against socialism, preaching against what is this going to do when we make plundering another individual legalized. When we legalize that, what is that going to do? And he predicted a lot of what happened then in the 20th century, where you have hundreds of millions of people killed because people trying to create a utopia. And at the very bottom there, I got another quote. The state is the great fiction by which everyone tries to live at the expense of everyone else. So, Dan Larimer. Dan Larimer is the creator. He is the technical lead of EOS. He started in a project called ProtoShares, which later became BitShares. And then if you know anything about, who knows anything about BitShares? BitShares. Okay. It is a distributed exchange, so there's no central authority that you can take down. There's no central accounts to hack. And it's distributed across bunches and bunches of computers. And he created BitShares right after Mt. Gox went down. Okay, he said, we can't do what we did. A bunch of people lost their money. We've got to create this distributed exchange. Yes, Rob.
Can you explain what Mt. Gox is for anyone who might not
Yes.
be familiar?
So Mt. Gox, Jacobs, I think, was the guy's name that created it. He found out about Bitcoin, I think, in 2010. And he had a website out there called Mt. Gox, MTGOX, and what he was doing with it is he was trying to trade Magic the Gathering cards. How many people here are familiar with Magic the Gathering? Sure. Okay, a couple people are willing to raise their hands for that. And so it's geeky. It's always been geeky. And when he found out about this, when he found out about Bitcoin, he's like, hey, I'm not using this domain anymore. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start a crypto exchange. And so he went ahead and started that, and he didn't have the experience necessary to do that. And so what happened is he ended up selling it to some other individuals, and then it was hacked, and then it went into receivership, I believe. They basically Chapter 11'd it, right? And a bunch of people, that left their crypto on Mt. Gox, they had no recourse. And so, the coin was on there and they lost it. And so then Dan says, hey, we can't let this happen again. We're gonna do BitShares. Now, I wasn't involved in BitShares early on. Rob was actually involved in BitShares early on. And then finally, beyond the distributed exchange, he says, okay, there are some problems with crypto. It is still, there's a high barrier of entry for cryptocurrencies. You have to own cryptocurrencies before you can do anything. There are transaction fees. You have to turn fiat currencies into crypto to get involved. And you have to be a little bit geeky, and you have to be willing to take risk and take on the responsibilities all yourself. Nobody else is going to take on the responsibilities of this. If you make a mistake, you put in the wrong code when you're sending it to somebody, it's gone, right? And so there's a big leap you got to take, and there's only a few of us foolish people, taking that risk that And so what he said is, okay, we're going to make a social network, and we're going to make it so that you don't have to own any crypto to get involved. You don't have to pay any fees. You don't have to be a geek. In fact, most of the people I know on Steemit, they are individuals who are artists. There's a lot of artists on there. Writers who are writing articles. And that's what you do. You write articles, you post posts, and then what happens is when people vote on your stuff, you actually get paid in crypto. And so you bring in this whole new group of people that are not the geeks and you know, the crypto geeks. You bring in this whole other group, and they start learning about crypto, and they start learning about the wallets, because Steemit, you know, it has a wallet, and it has crypto coins. So we were talking. We had dinner tonight before the meetup, and you know, Rob and I were talking about Steemit, how we think Steemit is a good prototype of what's going to happen in the future. So now Dan takes these first two projects, and he learns a ton about blockchain. He learns what is necessary. He learns what scales and what doesn't scale, and he actually comes up with some really cool, neat, innovative stuff. Delegated proof of stake is one of the big ones, so that you can get scalability, so that you can have thousands of transactions per second. Okay, and he says, okay, we've got the groundwork for this. Now I want to take and we want to generalize the blockchain, so that people who are enterprise developers like me can then say, now I can build on the blockchain without having to know about all this lower level stuff. Okay, I'm an enterprise developer by trade. That's what I do every day. Blockchain technology is hard. It's hard to understand. It's hard to wrap your brain around. Distributed technologies is hard. It's hard to wrap your brain around. If you just want to copy, if you just want to fork Bitcoin, change a few variables, you can do that. But if you want to do any kind of innovative stuff, you need to know it. And so what he's saying, what Block 1 is saying, is, hey, we don't need to make everybody know everything about it. He was actually working for when he got out of college, he was working for the military industrial complex, building drones and other types of things. And he says, I had this existential crisis. And he said, philosophically, I wanted to move from working on weapons of destruction to creating systems that can help provide, and I put in parentheses here, protect life, liberty, and property of mankind. Now I can get behind that, because I believe that 100%. I believe that's where we need to be going. So, DACs and DAOs, I want to talk about this. Are there any questions before I start talking about this? Okay, DACs and DAOs. It just so happens that Dan Larimer is the first guy to actually come up with the term distributed autonomous company. And he actually wrote about it before he talked about it here in Atlanta in 2013. And what he explained is he describes a company that's running completely on the blockchain, okay? Shareholders, votes, all that kind of stuff is happening on the blockchain. You know, people could do work for these things, these distributed autonomous companies. You don't have to actually get hired. You don't have to go through an HR and actually get hired into one of these companies. They put the work that's necessary, that's needed out. Somebody says, hey, I'll do the work. And now they get paid in cryptocurrencies, okay? So you've got a way to decentralize companies, corporations. That's pretty awesome. To me, that has to be the most exciting thing. Yeah, so I already said that about ProtoShares was launched, predecessor of BitShares. This is my big statement of the night. And it's easy for me to say because 10 years is long enough where if I'm wrong, you'll forget about it, that I was wrong. But if I was right, I can always point back to this and say, hey, I said that. We know as the business models of today we know that they're gonna see dramatic changes over the next 10 years because of blockchain technology. We absolutely know that. It's already happening. And I believe it's gonna be DACs specifically that it's gonna drive that most. I believe we're gonna look back at this century in time, not us, not me at least. I believe our children, our grandchildren are gonna look back on this time and they're gonna say, this was crazy. This was nuts, how we did things. And I got some more things coming up with that. They're gonna look back on this and they're gonna think about it like we currently look back at the feudal system as an economic system, you know, of our past, you know, humanity's past. And that's a bold statement, but again, in 10 years, if I was wrong, so what? So I wanna give an example of an insurance DAC. And so today, in our current world, so let me back up here. I know I'm not getting into the game yet. There's a lot of foundational stuff before we start talking about the game. But this is exciting as well. Insurance company. Today I pay my premium and you know, I get sick, I go to the doctor, and the insurance, I put in my claim to the insurance company and the insurance company pays my claim. Okay? Now let's move this to the blockchain, start talking about smart contracts, and we all start paying into a smart contract. There's a record of our payment that we have done. We get sick, we go to the doctor, we register our bill somehow. I don't have all the details worked out on this yet. I mean, nobody does yet, but then the smart contract actually pays the doctor's office. And then we get to do something interesting where everybody who has actually been putting money into this DAC, we actually own it, we manage it, right? So it's not an insurance company that owns this thing anymore. Now we have this big pool of funds and we can do this, something like Warren Buffett has done, right? He takes his insurance company and he says, okay, this money's not at risk to be used, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna invest that. Now we could do the same thing as members of a DAC. Okay? Got something? Anything? Okay. So that's just one example. I'm going to actually talk about healthcare a little bit more. I'm going to take this to another level. Anybody got questions on that?
Did you say it's like a mutual company from
Yeah.
an insurance standpoint?
Yeah.
Like a State Farm, only a lot more streamlined.
Yeah. No middleman. I mean, you could actually hire, the DAC could hire somebody if they needed to, say, negotiate with a hospital or something like that. They could externally. I mean, yep. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically you could remove a lot of overhead and kind of the accounting, and you could have like contractors that do work on behalf of the smart contract that get paid for maybe, you know, resolving conflicts or interfacing with people.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
How do you think, so to play devil's advocate, how do you think, like say my good friend is a doctor, we decide to collude in order to take funds from the DAC, and I act like I'm sick, and he bills you, and split it. How do you think you would prevent that sort of scenario?
So I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So EOS so I am a huge fan of EOS, okay? And that's primarily what I'm interested in now. That is primarily what I am focused on. And there are some really neat things going on with the governance of EOS right now. They're building this governance, how it's gonna work. When you actually open an account with EOS, you actually have to sign, you have to say, hey, I've read the Constitution and I agree with the terms of the Constitution. So, and because it's blockchain, there's a record of everything. So if it ever comes back that all of a sudden, hey, you know, Rob has gone to this doctor a bunch of times, you know, and we see that in the blockchain. And so we can start asking questions. Hey, Rob, what's going on? You know, what's going on? And he can say, hey, he's my doctor since I was this tall, you know, and maybe that's okay, you know, or, but maybe we see some really funky stuff, like you've been in for, you know, 3 broken legs in 2 months. I mean, really? You know, what are you doing? Yeah, we could see stuff like that. So there might be opportunities for that. You had a question.
I was gonna say you could follow money drip.
Exactly. Yep,
Let's
exactly.
say if the scenario the doc's in, like say if I was a patient, you were a doctor, and we were gaming the system, and I was coming to you, and you were charging me like exorbitant bills, and we decided to split it because we were in league with each other, then we could just see that, like, you know, your address and your contract or whatever was paying me and paying
Yep.
you, and we just diverted.
Yep. There's kickbacks. We see actual kickbacks happening.
Ways
Yep.
to gain that deeper, but still the amounts could be matched up.
Yep. Yep. Yes.
So you'd say it maybe be like kind of a collective policing of the system?
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of the idea that EOS has that hasn't been done before, is that we're agreeing to this constitution before we join.
Everybody's bought it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not mandatory that you join EOS. It's just, it's like a club. If you join, you gotta abide by the rules. And the first article of the Constitution is don't lie. I can get behind that, right? Because I don't wanna be doing business with somebody that's lying to steal my money, right? Oh. You have something?
Can you repeat the question after just?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, I will. If I don't remember to do that, just yell at me. Yes, sir.
I think one of the coolest things about this is you could basically run an insurance company that's not for profit anymore.
Yes,
It's in the interest of the users.
yes,
So the purpose of the company existing is not to make money, it's to supply the users with the service.
yes.
You can do that with
Simply.
not just insurance,
You
but
go to the bank.
Anything.
exactly.
Anything where there is a middleman.
Yeah.
Anything now. And that's why the statement's true.
Yeah, you do it with Facebook.
Yeah.
Do you think there's gonna be a South Park episode about they took our jobs in terms of this?
Computers.
Sure,
In terms of insurance men?
sure. We should make one.
Would it be poignant if there was a negative effect, if I'm not?
So what would be a process of a DAC going bankrupt?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I really don't know. That's an interesting thought. You could have an insurance company that takes care of that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would be a outcome for privacy and especially how we balance the decentralization versus privacy?
So this is interesting. I came into, like I said at the beginning of this, I came into crypto through MadeSafe. And MadeSafe is all about privacy, security, and freedom. And I have since, I believe there is a place for privacy, security, and freedom, especially if you're in a place where, you know, if people know my name, there's my life could be in danger, right? But for most life stuff, I don't mind that. I'm not trying to lie. I'm not trying to cheat. I'm not trying to steal. There's still an opportunity for anonymity, but not necessarily complete privacy. Especially because the way EOS works is you have an account. Okay, you could have multiple accounts, but you have an account, and then your addresses for your wallets are tied to that account. And again, I don't know all the absolute details of all this stuff yet. Rob, do you want to say anything about privacy with EOS at all? You want to?
Sure. So there's a big push to have blockchains that have privacy features like Monero, Zcash, probably some other ones. They may have their use cases, but I think that the real value of blockchains is transparency and accountability myself. So
I want the government.
I always subscribe to the belief, if you don't want it leaked, don't digitize it.
Yep.
Don't even put
Yep.
it on the internet at all.
Yep.
And then you don't have to worry, because privacy is really an illusion, in my
Yep.
opinion, because we don't have any assurances that the crypto we're using to give ourselves privacy will not be broken sometime in the future.
Yep.
So, I mean, we can trust it now, and I hope it isn't broken, but if it is broken, then everything we believed was private is now in the open. So I don't think blockchains are a great use case for privacy myself.
I want to see every government on the blockchain. You know, I do. I want to see their budgets. I want to see where they're spending money. I want to see what's happening. I think that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Dash. How many people here are familiar with Dash? Okay. Just digital cash. They did something, and they weren't the first one to do it. Actually, BitShares had it in there, but I don't think it became really super popular in BitShares for a while. Dash actually came up with this thing called a decentralized governance budget. Basically, what they said is, okay, 10% of our new coins that are being created are going to go into this this escrow account, and then we're going to vote on how we use that money. And that money can be used for the core developers, that money can be used for marketing, that money can be used for anything, and anybody can put in a proposal. They have to pay to put in a proposal. But you put in a proposal, and you say, hey, I want to run this YouTube marketing thing for the next year, right? I want to run a show and explain to people about Dash. And that is actually a real use case. That happened. And then this individual, she said, hey, I want this much Dash to do that. And the community said, we want you to do that too. So they voted and said, yes, you can do that. And then she gets paid in Dash, which is pretty awesome. The core devs get paid in Dash. Now there's always this bootstrapping thing that has to happen with a coin, but these are the kind of things where DACs are changing the way things are done, and it's amazing. Inflationary models. When I came into crypto, I was all about I don't like the idea of inflation so much. Bitcoin, is a deflationary coin. There will only ever be so many Bitcoins that will ever exist. And the number of Bitcoins that are created is going down every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes some more are created, but the number of those is going down. And eventually, I don't know what year it is, 2,100 and something, I think, is what it was, that the last newly minted Bitcoin will be created. And so that was awesome to me. Okay, now we don't have this, our Federal Reserve, making our Federal Reserve notes, our dollars, our US dollars, they're not just able to arbitrarily print these things. Bitcoin has a stable deflationary model. And I thought, that is awesome. And then I got involved with Steemit, and I understood Dash more, and I understand EOS now. Where if you have an inflationary model where you're adding value into the system at a higher rate, the value is increasing at a higher rate than your inflation is increasing, then all your coins are becoming more and more, worth more and more, which is awesome. And that's what you should be doing. You should be adding value into the system. Okay. Now there's been a lot of talk, I got this thing at the very end, there's been a lot of talk about universal income. And when I first heard about universal income, I was like, whoa, that just sounds terrible. Because you know what a government would do with that. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking. But now I'm thinking a little bit differently when you start thinking about an inflationary model where you're adding value into the system. That could change things. I don't know how many people know about universal income, but I won't go too much more into it. I just want to bring it up there. I'm gonna go a little further, and then we're gonna take a little break, and then I'll get into the game itself, okay? Are we good with that? Can we do that? Can we do that on the live stream? Hopefully that's okay with the people on the live stream. So I wanna use an example of the Uber drivers. Anybody here drive for Uber? Anybody here ever taken an Uber? Okay, a few of you. Basically right now, it's on demand, peer-to-peer. If I want to sign up as a driver, I can do that. I don't know what kind of qualifications you have to have as a driver. I'm not a driver. But essentially you download this app and you work for yourself, and people on demand say, I want to go from point A to point B, and you say, okay, I'll pick up that thing, and I'll go pick you up and I'll take you. And that's currently today. Now, if we look at a blockchain version of Uber, what might it look like? Okay, so imagine you as a driver, you build a reputation for being a good driver. Someone says, I need to go from A to B. You go pick them up. They've got a good reputation on the blockchain because you've seen things that they have done. You've seen rides that they have taken. You see that they pay. You go ahead and pick them up, take them to their place. There's a smart contract in between there that says, hey, as long as this person gets picked up, as long as my car goes from here and there, and they say, yeah, I got there, all of a sudden the transaction just happens, okay? And again, you take out the middleman, and the driver gets everything, okay? Or maybe a small piece goes to building an app that is the new app, the new version of Uber. And okay, now we think of something a little bit different. We think an inflationary model. Now, I own these tokens. This is the token economy. I own these tokens, and these tokens guarantee me a certain amount of mileage every month, okay? And so as long as I have these tokens, I call for my car, somebody comes, picks me up, takes me over here. They don't get paid by me, I get to keep my tokens. They actually get paid new coins, new tokens that get created for them doing the job. Now they can turn around and sell it to other people. They can turn around and sell these new tokens to other people. So that is some of the cool stuff that we all need to start thinking about with blockchain. Okay, any questions? So, let me see. So instead of insurance DAC, let's talk about a healthcare DAC. Individuals buy these tokens. It guarantees them a certain level of healthcare provision. Okay, they go to their doctor. They don't have to spend these tokens. They go to their doctor. Their doctor gets paid on new inflationary tokens, right? These newly created tokens. The doctor can turn around and sell these tokens to new clients. And now you've aligned incentives in a way. And let's see. You have a governance budget or a governance system in place where now everybody who owns these tokens are interested in, okay, the doctors want these things to be worth more. They want to make sure you're healthy, so you don't take up all their time. So they're helping you maybe be preemptive about health. They're helping you instead of just dealing with issues and whatnot. You know, they're actually trying to help you live a more healthy lifestyle. Is this making sense? Is this? Yeah. Okay. Good. This kind of stuff is what really gets me excited about blockchain. Because
have a look at Mint Health.
Yeah?
They're
Are they doing some of this
doing some
similar?
of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Very on it.
That's awesome.
It's actually 2 doctors working on it.
That's awesome.
What was the name of that one?
Mint Health?
Mint Health.
Yeah, virtual advisor for that company.
Is it MINT? Health?
MINT Health.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in this model, like, would a patient go to a doctor and then only part of the bill would be paid with inflation, and then the patient would pay the rest in their tokens? Or
You would. I don't know. I don't know what you'd have to do. I don't know what all the knobs and levers, you know, you'd have to figure that out, you know, what exactly is necessary for a doctor to actually just get all inflation. You know, would that work? I don't know. Would the inflationary model would it be too much then? Or, you know, what I was thinking when I was just kind of brainstorming this is I'm thinking, okay, so as we get older, that's when we start having health problems, right? I mean, my knees don't work like they used to. I'm a lot overweight. And you know, it's the youth that are healthy, and it's great. I'm glad. You know, unless you have some emergency crazy thing happen, but the older we are, the more we're gonna see the doctor, more than likely. So then maybe what happens is, as you get older, maybe you have to have more of these tokens, you know, maybe, it's a possibility. And, or, you know, maybe you have to have more of these to go more often. I don't know. But you don't have to get rid of them. We can use an inflationary model as long as it's a protocol level inflation model that's not arbitrary. As long as somebody is not just making stuff out of nothing without a purpose. Okay? That's what our government does. And that's why in the last 100 years, that was planned, I'm sure. That's why in the last 100 years, you know, the dollar of 100 years is worth a penny today. That's crazy. But we don't feel it because it happens just slowly, you know? All right, any questions? This here came out on the 10th of April, last Tuesday. This guy from Goldman Sachs, he quotes in an analyst note, "One-shot cures for diseases are not great for business. More specifically, they're bad for long-term profits." That is BS, okay? That's evil thinking. But that's what we've created. That's the model that we've created, okay? And so what we need to do is we need to figure out ways that we can align stakeholder incentives so that we don't have this kind of thinking anymore, you know? So I get, when I see stuff like that, I think, oh, come on. No wonder people hate capitalism. I am a capitalist, but I am not. There's a lot of backroom deals that should not happen, should not be allowed to happen. All right. So the reason I am so for EOS is because they're going to allow the enterprise developer to build. They don't have to, like I said, they don't have to know about this lower level language stuff. They can start building this stuff. Enterprise developers can start building this stuff, start iterating on it and innovating on it, thinking through, and this is exciting. Rob, you already talked about EOS last time. I'm not going to go into all the details of EOS. There's a ton of stuff out there. I actually did a talk in Grand Rapids. You can do a search for Grand Rapids blockchain, Chadrick Mahaffey, and I did a whole hour on a deep dive into EOS itself. And you can do that. Rob did a talk that was recorded. So you know, there's a lot of stuff out there, but essentially it uses that inflation model. That as long as I own EOS tokens, I'm guaranteed processing power, bandwidth, and data storage on this distributed server farm. Is basically what it is. And so then I can build on top of that. It's an operating system I can build on. And I don't have to spend my tokens to get the advantages of this. Because what's happening is the people that are running the server farms, hopefully EOS Detroit. Detroit EOS? EOS Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Which way is it?
EOS Detroit.
EOS Detroit. And so block producers are getting paid up to 5%, and I'm not sure exactly what that inflationary rate is going to be, because we all as EOS owners are going to vote on that. The block producers, yes?
Just a clarification.
Mm-hmm.
The block producers will only get a maximum of 1%.
Is that in stone now?
I believe so.
Okay.
And also, the block producers the inflation rate they want, so they're competing to bring the inflation down
Okay.
as well. And the shareholders get to vote on them.
Yeah.
So if a block producer is like, I want to pay myself the max,
Right.
then they're not going to be able to compete against block producers that are publishing a more competitive rate of inflation.
We want
It's
people to
just
be able to make money, but not exorbitant amounts of money. I mean, there has to be a balance, right?
Yep.
We need to incentivize them, hey, you gotta keep this thing running and keep it running good because it's running everything now. Okay, we've got a world operating system now.
So what happens to the delta then to the max inflation rate, and what portion of that's going to block producers?
Right, so great question. So the shareholders actually can direct the inflation to what are known as community benefit contracts as well. So they can vote on proposals that that can be funded. So similar to the DACs governance budget or the BitShares worker system, you can actually the stakeholders can decide to hire developers through the protocol with that additional inflation as well. But if it's not being used, it'll just go into a reserve fund. So it can be used in the future, but it'll just be like locked up until proposals are executed.
So it's safe to say though in June, the max inflation rate will probably be less than 5%. 4% would be astronomical going into a reserve fund.
Right, right. I'm not exactly sure on the exactly how that will work yet. What I do know is that the block producers get to publish parameters, one of which is the inflation rate that they get paid. I don't know if the rest of the inflation is just dumping into a reserve fund or if the max can actually be brought down so there's just less being created altogether. It's a good question.
Anything else? Okay. So I love this quote. I don't know if Einstein actually meant his quote the way that I take it, but I love this quote. And he said, everything that is really great and inspiring is created by the individual who can labor in freedom. And that is kind of my why. You know, why do I get up in the morning? I mean, first of all, I'm a very religious person. So that is my first why. But this is huge. You know, if we can have people, there's a Japanese word called ikigai. I think that's how you pronounce it. Is that how you've heard it? Ikigai.
I think so.
And essentially what it is if you're doing that which you love, and that which you're good at, and that which you can be paid for, and that which the world needs, then you've got it. Okay? You have a reason to get up every day. You have the mission, you have the passion, you have the profession, you have the vocation. Okay? And I did a talk 2 years ago, May 10th of 2016, on this Technology and Choice podcast. It's about an hour long. And I talked about this concept, this idea called crowdfunding. And essentially what it is, and what it was, is a DAC that could be used as with an inflationary model where you would have all these projects putting in, it's essentially being done on a lot of different platforms today, which is awesome. People are, I wasn't the only one thinking about this. Lots of other people were thinking about it. And it's essentially, you can do what you love, and as long as you're creating value, and if people can be rewarded financially through crypto, then you've got that. You've got that ikigai. And essentially, you would start a project, and this project would have some kind of founder token, and you would pay people this founder token to do stuff. And as they're adding value to this, that founder token is actually becoming more and more valuable. People actually want to buy that. And so now, all of a sudden, they're able to sell these founder tokens and make real money. But again, that was an hour long, and that is just the very tip of the iceberg on that. Yes?
I just wanted to speak to the founders tokens becoming worth more.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole study of how to make
Nope.
There's gotta
You
be
have to add
uses
value.
for it.
Yeah, there has to be uses and you have to add value. And well, because there's uses, that's where the value comes from.
Exactly.
Yep. Yep. Yes. Yep. No free rent here, you know? That's not our goal. We wanna build value for everyone. And allow everyone to partake of that value who's willing to put in some effort. That's awesome. Let's take a quick break, maybe like 5 minutes. Hopefully you guys on the internet aren't, maybe we could throw up some kind of dancing bear or something on there, you know? Let's take a 5-minute break and come back, and then I'll get into the, yeah, we could have a dancing crypto kitty.
I figured it out.
All right, so crypto. Okay, good. You know why? So here's the question. We got all this serious stuff. You know, we've been talking about insurance. We've been talking about healthcare. We've been talking about a lot of possibilities for DACs in the future. Why do I want to focus on a game? Okay, something that really, in the grand scheme of things, you know, is it gonna make that big of a deal? Is it gonna make that? Are these little crypto kitties on the Ethereum network? Do they mean anything really? They're cute. Okay. They mean everything. All right. So the reason I am excited, I am a gamer. I'm a former gamer. I'll say that. I am not a huge gamer today. I do play a game called Warzone, which is a Risk game on my phone, and I play that with a bunch of friends. And I love that game. But I don't have time to play games like I used to. You know, I don't have hours and hours and hours to spend on a game. But well, you'll see the game that we're The idea behind building this is that we need a place to learn where the cost of failure is not too high. Okay? So instead of me saying, hey, let's do the insurance day, and then a bunch of people died because we couldn't take care of them, you know? I mean, that's an extreme example, right? Right? And I want to build something that is going to be such a low barrier of entry that anybody with a smartphone or they're at their computer can play this game and learn about crypto and actually get paid. Well, I'm not going to say that yet. We need a safe place to prove out these concepts. And again, EOS is a platform for building DApps. We're learning by doing, and we're going to innovate. So SFEOS. SFEOS, I'm old school, okay? Back in the 80s, I went to my buddy's house, and he had this thing called the bulletin board system. It was awesome, okay? BBS, bulletin board system. We didn't have the internet yet. You had a modem, you called into the central location, this guy was running this bulletin board system, and you got to log onto his computer, which was acted as a server, and you could log into different games. You could leave emails for each other. This was before we had the routing system that we have today, so advanced. You could broadcast an email from your place to the server, and he might send it to somebody else, and eventually it might end up across the world. But it wasn't designed for that. It was a neighborhood, usually. And on that server, we had this game called Trade Wars. And it was awesome. This was it right here. And you basically, you flew your little spaceship around these sectors in space, and you found these ports, and you bought resources, which you had cargo holds, you had fighters, you had armor, you had credits, and you had organics, equipment, and you could buy that stuff at one port and go to another port and trade it. I mean, how cool is that? You know, that was awesome. I actually tried playing the game again because I have a lot of fond memories of the game. And it was so much work that I just couldn't handle it. But back then it was fun. Because that's what we had, that's all that we had. In 2002, they did an update to the game, and they did an awesome update. They actually made it in color. Yeah. This was advanced. And so this is actually, you can actually play it on the web now, in different places that are running it through some kind of a telnet or something. But essentially, the game, it was really cool. You had these virtual sectors in space that you would fly your ship around. You'd get these resources, and then you'd sell these resources. So when CryptoKitties came out, and I'm super involved in the EOS, thinking about it, thinking about the DApp that I can build, thinking about the DApp that's going to be low risk for people, so I can learn. And I thought back to Trade Wars, and I was like, that is a crypto game, right? That is obviously a crypto game. So actually, I just went through all this. You could upgrade your ship. You could buy offensive and defensive stuff. You could actually go to planets and use this thing called a Genesis torpedo and terraform the planet so that humans could live on the planet. It was just, I am a geek, okay? It was fun. So, this is a mock-up of our game. This is what we're using to build our thing called the MVP, minimum viable product of the game. And essentially what you're going to do in this game is you're going to fly around in space. You're going to fly from star system to star system, and then you're going to go into that star system, and you're going to search around for planets, and you're going to search around for resources. You're only going to have a certain number of actions per day that you can do. Okay, we're going to limit it to say 50. That was what Trade Wars did as well. You're going to have 50 actions you can do in a day. And when you're done with those 50 actions in that 24-hour period, then boom, you have to wait. You have to wait until that 24 hours is over to get your next 50 actions. So it's a turn-based game. It's not a real-time action game. Okay. And as you travel around space, so over here are the resources. You travel around space. Now this is our MVP, where we just have to get something out there to prove that can we do this. And so in the example, we're saying, okay, this ship is orbiting Jupiter, and if you notice down there at the bottom it says warning, anomaly detected, obstacles identified. You have debris field that you got to get through, and the shields at the current level aren't enough to get through this debris field. This is just an example mission objective that you'd have to go through. So what you would do is you would scan the planet that you're at, and it would say down here on the bottom right, it would say, hey, there's these resources out there. It's 99% likely that these 2 resources are there, and it's 10 to 57% likely that those other 4 are there. And then you say, okay, hey, I need to go ahead and mine that, so I'm going to send out my mining drones that are in my ship, and they're going to go down, they're going to collect these resources. All these resources are cryptographic assets, okay? When you find a planet, when you find a resource store, there's going to be an algorithm that determines how many players do we have, how many resources should we have, and when we spool that resource up, there's a limited number of those, okay? And then people can start mining these, and they start taking from that resource. Once it's gone, okay? And so there's going to be renewable resources in some things, but once it's gone, it's gone. And if you own it, you own it, okay? And so then what you can, well, I'll get into that in a second. So you mine them, and then say, hey, I got this raw resource, I need to refine that. How many people here have played Minecraft? Okay, good. Okay, so you mine a raw resource into a refined resource, then you can use that resource in some crafting recipe, and you build this debris shield, okay? Now it gets added to your ship, and hey, you can travel on through that space debris onto the next location. Now there's a whole lore and everything else built into this game. I mean, I'm a creative individual. I like to write. I like to think about stuff, stories and whatnot. There's a whole lore behind this and everything. But this is just the basics. We have to be able to travel around. We have to be able to get resources. We have to be able to refine resources and craft resources so that, so that the players can then turn around and they can sell the resources, they can buy resources on the exchange to use, they can pay other players to do things for them, be mercenaries, You can hire people to deliver resources across space, because space is gonna matter, you know, where you're at. And let me go back to this one here. What if I told you that just playing a game, you could get paid? Would that interest you? Just playing a game? Yes? Good, good. I'm glad at least one person is excited about that. Okay? So, SFEOS will be free to play, and it's also going to pay the player to play the game. Okay? And the way we can do that is because we have a, I've been saying the term all night long, inflationary. We have an inflationary model. Every day that you play your 50 turns, you get one SFEOS token. Okay? You can do things with that SFEOS token, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If you only play a portion of your turns, you get that percentage of a SFEOS token for that day. And then as you're doing things, you're gathering resources. Those are other forms of crypto tokens that you will have. Those are in-game resources. SFEOS can be used both in-game and out of game. So 100% player-run economy. Now, usually what I hear from gamers when I say that is, hey, this sounds like pay to win. That's stupid. We hate pay to win. Okay? Because what happens is a game company puts out a game, and you spend 100 hours on this game, and you got your character, whatever it is, really high level, and then all of a sudden this guy who's been around for a day, he spends $100 and he wipes you out because he bought all these loot boxes that apply to his character now, and he is stronger than you are. With 100 hours that you've put in, he's put in $100, and there's no chance of defeating that person. Okay? And so, so that's pay to win, and that does bite. So what we're doing is different, though. We're actually there's no game company that is selling loot boxes. Only the players who have gathered these resources are able to sell these resources. Okay, so that changes the dynamic completely. Now you decide how much do you want to allow people to pay to win. And then what do you want to do with your resources? Do you want to sell them? Do you want to use them? What do you want to do? You're free to do whatever you want to do. I gotta wait until questions. How do we do that? How easy is that to see back there? Okay. This is our model. You start here up in the top left. You take your turn where you're traveling around the universe, you're gathering resources, you're crafting those resources. You can craft them on the ship, which is small, or you can go to a port and you can bulk craft them. So let's say you gather 50 resources. That takes 50 actions. Okay, that's kind of a waste of a day, a waste of a 24-hour period. Okay, so what if I have all these refining these resources costs you an action, which would then be 50 actions, and it would waste your day. So instead, I will say I'm going to jump a few nodes in space, and I'm going to get to this port, and then I'm going to bulk craft those with one action. Okay, so maybe it takes me 5 actions to get there, 1 action to bulk these things, and the port keeps a very small percentage of those resources, that resource. Okay, and so that's happening all inside of the game. So now you have these things, you can use them, you can craft other things, build your ship bigger, maybe even create a different kind of ship. Work with other people to create stargates so you can get from one star system to another star system. You're going to be able to work with all kinds of people. You're going to be able to create smart contracts inside of the game on how you will interact with the rest of your group. Okay? You might say, hey, anybody in my group can use 10% of my stuff, or nobody can use more than 10% per day, or something like that. But we can build contracts in there like that, and we can prove out some of these contracts. You know, when I talked about the insurance contract, right? Let's say you have control of a planet, and you've got all these people on this planet now. Okay, what happens if they get sick? What happens if they stop producing? Well, we can build an insurance contract around this. Prove that concept out in a stupid little game, right? A fun, stupid little game. And just see, does it work? Does this concept work? And to me, that is pretty sweet. Because then we can take something that, hey, we've done this in a game, and we can move it to the real world where people can get excited and say, let's take this, this, and this, because they've worked. We've proven that they work it's an obvious model, so it's not real life, but you can try to get it as close as you could, you know. You could try to get it as close as you could. So, again, as you play the game, we go over to the right now, you get your daily SFEOS token, and another token gets created at the same time. And again, I don't know if it's one for one yet. I don't know all the knobs and levers we're gonna have to do, you know, so that the inflation is not too high. But essentially a portion of a new SFEOS token or a full SFEOS token goes into this budget. And now we have a budget that the people who, so there's two things you can do with your SFEOS token. Well, there's more than that. There's three things. You could sell it in the open market on some exchange. You can buy resources with it from people who want to sell their resources, in-game resources. And you can also stake your token. And what staking your token does is it actually converts it into a founder token. And what that founder token allows you to do then is to, remember when I said if you bulk craft things at the port, there's this little portion of that resource that they charge as a fee. So as a founder, you have all these little chunks and all these ports all over space, and the number of founder tokens that you have allows you then to go to these ports and pick up those resources. And so that's an added bonus that you get as a founder. So that's pretty cool. You also get to, as a founder, you get to vote on the governance of the system. Where do we want to go with this game in the future? At first, it's going to be a simple 2D game. You saw the screens. Maybe we want to make it a 3D game in the future. You know, maybe we want to send someone to PAX. If you're familiar with the gaming industry, you know, it's a gaming convention. Somebody says, "Hey, I want to go to PAX. I want to represent SFEOS. It's going to cost me $10,000. Okay. Well, we have enough in the budget. These SFEOS are worth this much at this time. You would need this many of them, and we might say, yeah, let's get started. You know, maybe you want to create a bunch of wall art or something, you know, for your booth. Maybe go ahead and start doing that. We'll pay you this much. Then you need to buy some whatever that presentation is going to look like at the booth or whatever. We pay them from the inflation. I'm missing something, and it was important. I'm going to miss it. It's okay. I have to say it's okay and just leave it. My brain will keep going on. All right, so I'm going to move on, and then if you have any questions, please save them until later, and then we will answer, and I can go back through any of these I need to go back through. So the budget. The budget grows as players play the game, as new players come into the game. The inflation is happening based on how much people are enjoying the game, how much people are playing the game. And that's what's cool. It's not just happening willy-nilly, it's happening as the game grows. As value is being put into the system, as more and more people are valuing the game, the new coins are created, the inflation's happening, people are getting paid to play the game, which is, in my mind, it's changing. That's game changing. It is, because the model today is, hey, I pay to play this game, or I don't, I I get a free-to-play game, and then I buy loot boxes that still cost me money, or I pay a free game, I play a free game, and there's all these stupid ads, you know? Well, we're gonna pay you to play the game instead. So what is my incentive to build the game? I've already talked about my incentive. Basically, the whole first half of this presentation has been my incentive to play to create this game. It really comes down to proving concepts. I mean, I like playing games, and I'm building the game that I want to play. I'm building the game that I can spend 15, 20 minutes a day playing, where I don't have to spend my entire life playing the game. I can do these 50 turns and be done, put it away, you know. And I don't have to play every day either, you know. I can play as much or as little as I want to, but what you're doing is the players are building a legacy within the game. The legacy continues because I forgot to mention this, and this is a huge part of the game, is that the things that you change in the game are changed forever, right? We've talked about the resource being limited, but if you colonize a planet, it's colonized from then on. You know, you build something, it's there. For other people to come and see and maybe try to destroy. You know, there's all kinds of, the players are both the players and the NPCs. They're the factions. They're building their own factions. Okay, so anything that is worth anything takes, I like to use this term, tempo. Time, energy, money, people, and organization. And part of this is I want to build this on EOS because I believe in EOS. I believe in the inflationary model of EOS. I believe in the way that EOS is going to work. I believe in the scalability. I believe in the people. I believe in the governance. I have rose-colored glasses on in case you haven't noticed. And I want to build tools for EOS. I mean, because us helping the whole EOS community out adds value. And we just keep adding value and adding value. And what's the term? You know, the tide raises all ships, right? I don't know.
Not zero sum.
Yeah, but we're all helping each other. We're all adding value, and the value of it is increasing, which is awesome. It's awesome. You know, you think about that insurance DAC. You mentioned there's these couple doctors working on this insurance thing already, or healthcare, right? In this world, we don't have to be first to market, especially if they're doing their DAC right. We could say, hey, let me join you and add value to that. If I really believe in that, let me join you. I don't have to start my own thing, right? I can join that, and if they're doing things fairly, I can join them, and we can build something awesome together. It doesn't have to be an us versus them thing. So this here is BitShares. I have a BitShares account out there, and I have a BitShares asset. And it's the way that I'm doing early founder tokens for people who are adding value to building the game. There are people who are writing lore. There are people who are doing art. You saw a lot of the art in here. It's mainly me and one other guy doing a lot of the programming. I have a few people that are interested in helping with audio. My wife has actually offered to do a little bit of voiceover acting. There's, what else? I actually have audio offers to do SEO stuff, organizational stuff. And the way that I'm doing this is I'm offering people early on, I'm offering them based on market value. There's a thing called, if you're interested in starting any kind of endeavor, any kind of startup, there's a thing called slicingpie.com, okay? And it's awesome. It's beautiful, and it's basically fair equity splitting in startups. And what it does is it does a dynamic split. So essentially, whatever you risk and whatever anybody else has risked, it puts in the market value of what you're risking, and then gives you that many slices or pieces of pie or whatever. It's in our terms, it's cryptocurrency, right? We give out these SFEOS founder tokens, and we do that basically one for one for $1 worth of work. If people help out with cash, it's 2 for 1 because cash is harder. Cash is harder to keep. Cash is harder to. You have to, first of all, you have to make it, you have to save it, and then you have to pay taxes on it. And so we're doing 2 for 1 for dollars. Now, we are not selling SFEOS founder tokens. I need to say that because we're not trying to be a security at all. You have to be friends or family to get involved in giving money. So you can all be my friends and family, but you have to become my friends and family. I have to say that for legality purposes. And, you know, I give some of these coins out for promotions. I give them out for people who contribute and backers who are willing to help fund the DAC. You know, where a friend or a family who gives me money, then I would give to somebody else instead of SFEOS founder tokens if they have to have actual cash to do some work. Okay. There's a lot of future potential payoff for this. Some of the big ones are these bottom ones I actually like even more. Experience, learning, personal and professional networking, future DApp development opportunities, and the game is going to be fun. I'm making the game that I want to play. It's going to be fun for me.
Is the game being created in Unity or?
The game is it's a 2D game, okay? So it's all web based, and we're going to use some WebAssembly, we're just starting it. I mean, I guess it was conceived probably in November, and then I think I first posted about it maybe in December or January, and we've just been going slow. And I work full time, so it is a part-time endeavor. And I want to prove that we can crowdfund this thing. We're not doing a big ICO because I'm very skeptical of ICOs. And, you know, it would be really cool to have a huge bank account. I mean, I have to say that would be really cool, but I want to prove that we can do this. We can crowdfund this with people who have the heart to see this stuff, who have the vision to see this and have the heart to get involved. That's really why. This is some art that's been done by a couple different people. We're actually starting a monthly thing that we're calling the Meritocracy podcast. The guy that did that interview that I did on crowdfunding, he's involved with this as well. That's another contributor. And what we're going to be doing is every month we're going to do, hey, this is what we're doing. This is the development update. This is the community update. And we're going to have a constrained brainstorming session where we have a bunch of people that we're talking about one subject only. And let's try to hash this out. This is the problem we're trying to solve. How do we do that? And then we're going to have crowdfunding opportunities that we're going to then share what people can get involved with and how to help. What we currently need, if you're a HTML developer, if you're a designer, we need you. CSS grid is how I'm doing the layout. Parallax layouts is something that we're going to be using a lot of. Parallax stuff. Again, friends and family who are willing to fund us, help us. Game theory experts, web developers. And not just web developers, we're actually, we're learning EOS. So C++ developers, WebAssembly developers. We're learning all this stuff as we go. So it's a lot of fun. Promotions. if you have or are willing to create a BitShares account, and you have that account name, don't send me any keys, it's just an account name. Then you can send that account name to SFEOS@legacygameworks.com, and I'll give you one SFEOS founder token just because. And then if you want to get involved more, we can chat. So now I do want to mention one other thing. I debated whether to bring this up because I never know who's in the audience, but when you have a bunch of people promising utopia, be very skeptical. Have a healthy dose of skepticism. And you got to look at is this voluntary for me or is this forced? And if it's forced, you end up with 262 million dead. And if it's voluntary, you end up with ikigai. So, all right, I am willing to take questions. If you have questions, please come up to the mic. And if not, questions? Okay.
So far, what's the biggest problem you've run into?
Time. and a little bit of laziness on my part too, at different times. Working a full-time job, it's difficult. Community, making sure that all the people in the community are on the same page, that's been harder. I really do need a community manager. I need someone who can really step in and say, and be involved with everything that we're doing so that they can broadcast that out to everybody. That's been difficult. That is a need.
So is every action in the game going to be a transaction on blockchain?
Yep. Every action is going to be a transaction. Yeah. Yep. And okay, there might be some that are not. So not every single thing you do needs to be recorded. Like, I go to this screen. Who cares?
But a turn.
Yes. Exactly. Yep. Yes.
I was wondering if you put this on Utopian.io.
I did, and I was trying to build it in a lot smaller scale than they wanted me to. I wanted to build some tools first, and I wanted to say, hey, let me, I just wanted to build a framework that I was going to use my state machine for. And they said, that's not enough. We're not going to support that. And I was like, okay, that's fine. We have done some Steam articles. I think if somebody became a community manager and they started publishing some of this stuff to Steam, I think it could make them a decent amount of money just in that aspect. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Yeah. You want to come up so they can hear you online?
So with an inflationary model, if value is not being, like let's say a bunch of people flood into the game, there's a ton of value created, then interest tapers off, so value is leaving the game. How does that impact the inflationary model?
So that probably should be one of our episodes that we do on how to deal with that. Really, I don't have all the answers on a lot of this stuff. My rose-colored glasses, seeing this thing, I never really asked that question because I'm always thinking, hey, we're gonna be awesome. This is gonna be great. But you're probably right. We need to think about that. So I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay. So there have been other games that are similar to this, right? But what strikes me as one advantage that this has is, are the assets in the game, like the resources or maybe even the ships or what have you, will they be able to be permissionlessly interacted with outside the game?
Okay, so yeah, that is actually the point that I was forgetting about here.
Yeah, that's kind of the magic of CryptoKitties and why
Yep.
it's so
Yep.
revolutionary.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. So you can sell a resource, right? That resource is then going to become an actual block on the block available to sell another type of asset called port name underscore resource or resource underscore port name. Okay? And if you buy that resource, you cannot use it inside of the game until you travel to that port and actually convert it into a real in-game asset. Okay? So what it's going to do is that means that it ties the real world to different locations in the game. Okay? And so that kind of alleviates, again, the pay to win aspect as well. Because you got to know what you're doing in the game. You know, if you buy this stuff, I mean, you can turn around and sell it, I guess. You could buy a resource on an exchange and then turn around and sell it that way. But if you don't know what's going on in the game, it might be dangerous for you to buy stuff, right? Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything else? Yep.
I was just curious, so what would would the entire game be distributed?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, okay. So EOS, and Rob can correct me if I'm wrong here, but EOS is waiting on their data storage, correct? For like files, for that type of thing, for things that would be on like IPFS or something like that, right? That's not until the end of the year. So there's gonna be a lot of this that's hosted the way that the web is today until that happens. Was that your question? Yeah, okay. But we are moving where everything will be distributed eventually. And everything will live on essentially server farms that can't be taken down. So, yeah.
Well, I guess I also meant in terms of scaling. I mean, would that have you copy the entire game?
So I don't know all the details yet on that. Again, we're going to learn by doing, and we're going to push the limits a little bit, see, okay, what's realistic? Is this costing too much to do this? There are no fees to EOS, no ongoing fees, but you do have to stake your EOS coins to get access to RAM and all the things that you're using. So what makes sense? What makes sense to how much RAM do we need? How much in-memory stuff do we need? Can we store some of this stuff? I don't know yet. And so this is all going to be a learning experience. Take one more. Or not. All right. Okay.
So I really like the idea of using a game to test out some high-risk contracts like insurance, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know of any other projects that are basically doing a proof of concept of a high-risk smart contract system in a game environment?
I don't know. There's possibly people doing that. I don't know of any. And one of the pieces to this that I want to develop is I want to allow people to do that. I want to make sure that, this is all open source. Everything that we're doing is open source. None of this is closed source. And I want people to be able to say, hey, here's my contract. Here's what we're hoping to do in the real world. Can we model this? Can we model this in this game? And then let's see what happens. I want that really, really bad to happen.
That seems like it would bring huge value to the game beyond just any entertainment thing.
That's why we might not have to have that conversation, the other conversation that, when it. All right, so thank you all for having me. This has been fun, and hopefully you found it interesting at least, and hopefully you get more involved. And again, remember that promotion thing. So send me an email at SFEOS@legacygameworks.com. I will send you one SFEOS founder token. It may be worth nothing ever, so no promises.
Is there like a Telegram group?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I do have a Discord. If you go to SFEOS.io, there's some links to our Steemit account. There's a link. There might not be a link in there for the Discord. I've got to update that. So that's another thing I need to do. But if you go to SFEOS.io, www.sfeos.io, you can find most of the ways to get a hold of us. You can email me there if you have any questions and want to know more. So thanks again. All right.
Awesome job, Chadrick. That was great. A lot of great discussion. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for coming out. There was a lot of talk about Steam and Steam accounts. If you want one of those, I actually have passes here so you can get one for free. So I'm just gonna leave these here. So just help yourself if you want one. And yeah, so EOS is launching in 6 weeks. June 2nd or 3rd around is when the coordinated launch will happen. EOS Detroit is going to be a part of that launch, so we're forming a team. We're really looking to be extremely involved here in Detroit and in the greater EOS community. So if you're interested in getting involved with that, just come talk to me. It's going to be great. And so there's a lot to be done in 6 weeks. So also we have an event next month. May 17th. It's also on Meetup. We're having Thomas Cox out, who's a blockchain governance expert. So he's gonna be at TechTown, and we're gonna have a whole talk about blockchain governance, specifically for EOS. So you can ask all kinds of great questions about the Constitution, arbitration, how does governance work on blockchains at that meetup. So I urge you to attend, and we'll also be doing a live stream if you're unable to make it. So thanks for coming out, everyone.